Microsoft has released two unique functions for Excel, translate and detect language. With these functions, you can translate any text you want to another language. It should be noted that both functions require access to the internet to work since they use Microsoft translation services. In column A, I have a range of text with different languages. In column B, I'm going to use the translate function to translate each of them to English. In cell B2, I'll type out equals to translate tab, and we have three arguments here. The first one being mandatory, which is text, and the last two, source language and target language, are optional. For the text, we want to reference cell A2, comma. Now the source language, we have a list of language codes here, and what the source language is telling us, what language does the text represent? So in this case, since cell A2 is English, we would want to find the code, the language code for English. But if we leave this as blank, Excel will automatically try to detect what the source language is for us. We can just leave it as blank, and the target language, we want to translate it into something else. So in this case, we want to translate this text into English. Now, we have a list of over 100 language codes available to us. You can just scroll down until you see the one that you want to use, and each of these are sorted alphabetically based on the language you'd see in the right section. So in this case, I'm just going to type out in quotes English and do tab here and then close this out, press enter, and we get back the output of hello, how are you? Now, these are the same as expected, but if I drag these down for the various languages you'd see here, Control D, it automatically translates each cell into the appropriate English version. Now, unfortunately, I'm not multilingual, so if you are a native speaker, then comment down below which translations are correct. What if we left the target language argument blank? Well, if we do that by deleting the third optional argument here, and just leaving it with nothing, you can also delete the two commas if you want, press enter, we get back the same output which is English. And that's because if we leave the third optional argument blank, then Excel will automatically use our system language instead. Another new function that came out is the detect language function. This function can detect what language a text is in and return us the language code. In column C, I'm going to find the language code for each of the texts in column A. This function is very easy to use. In cell C2, I'll type out equals to detect language, tab, and we only have one argument here, the text. So I'll just reference that as cell A2, press enter, and we get back the language code for English, which is EN, drag this down, and we get the language code for this, which is French. This is German. This is a Chinese dialect, and we get the rest of the language codes here. Once again, if you're native, you can try to verify this on your own. Now, the cool thing with detect language is that you can combine it with the translate function. So in cell B2, let's say that you don't want to leave the source language blank, or you don't know what it is, right? What you can do is that you can do comma, and then for the source language, you can just reference this cell here with the detect language function, and the target language, we can just leave it as English again, and press enter, and we get back the same output as before. One neat thing you can do with the translate function is integrating it with a drop-down list and XLOOKUP. In cell A2, I have the text, "Hi, this is a sentence I spelled incorrectly." In cell F1, I will have a drop-down list of 133 languages I can choose from, and from the language I chose, I will get the corresponding language code back in cell F2. Then the text in cell A1 will get translated directly into cell B2 based on the language code. Let's test it out then. In cell F1, I'm going to choose a random language from the drop-down list. Let's do something like Hindi. I'm going to choose Hindi, and we get back the language code and the translation here. If I choose another language, like French, we get the language code of FR, and the translation in the French language in cell B2. And let's do one more, like Bangla, and we get back the direct translation of this sentence in Bangla. Now, if you didn't want to choose any translations, then you can just go back to the drop-down list, scroll all the way down, and select this blank cell here. So it's translated automatically based on a system language, or you can just delete the reference directly. So I can just delete the text, backspace, and we get back the system language translation again. Now let me show you how I created all this. I made another worksheet called Sheet 3, and in this worksheet, I have a list of the languages in column A and all the language codes in column B. There should be about 133 languages, which came from Microsoft Translation website directly. Going back to Sheet 2, I then made a data validation list in cell F1, and if I go to data, go to validations, and then do data validations, we can see that I have the settings listed as list, and the source will be the data table or the data column in Sheet 3. So from the second cell in column A down to the very last cell in column A, which is 1.04 million. I then clicked on OK to create the drop-down list, and then afterwards, I used the XLOOKUP function to retrieve the language code associated with the value from the drop-down list. So this function would reference cell F1, which is here, and then the lookup range would be sheet 3, column A, and the return range would be the language code in sheet 3, which is column B. If no values found, then return not available, and then concatenate it with nothing in case a 0 pops up here. The last thing I did was use the translate function in cell B2. So in this cell, I used cell A2 as the text argument, then the source language I just left as nothing or blank, and the target language will be cell F2, which is the language code. If you don't want anyone else to see the worksheet with the list of languages and language code, then you can just easily hide it from others. So I can just right click sheet 3 and then click on hide, and it's not visible to others, while your translation functions would still work. If you want to show the worksheet again, then you can just right click anywhere in this section here and then do unhide. You can select one or more worksheets, click OK, and we get back the worksheet again. That's all for this video showcasing the translate and detect language functions. If you found this video to be helpful, then please like and comment down below what else you'd want to see. And if you haven't already, subscribe. You can also follow me on Instagram and LinkedIn to get notified the next time I upload a video. Until then, I'll see you guys again next time.